So in many parts of the country, the number of days on market is starting to go up, inventory is starting to go up, and there's a little bit of tiny sense of, oh my God, there's going to be some change. So here's the deal. We're not heading toward a cliff, we're heading towards balance. So by definition, a balanced market is when there's about a 6 month supply of inventory in a market at any time, which means that if you didn't take any additional listings, if nothing else was introduced into the market, it would take about 6 months to work through the supply of homes. Okay, so we still have a 30-day, 45-day supply, in some places. And so technically it's still a seller's market. Now we're going to be moving toward a balanced market, which means we're probably going to have about a 6 month supply. Good. This means that buyers are going to have to negotiate and sellers are going to have to negotiate, and there's going to have to be a meeting of the minds on a middle ground that neither buyers nor sellers are going to be at a strategic advantage. But they're going to have to compromise to work out what's in their own best interest. So that's number one. Number two, the truth of the matter is that home ownership is not an entitlement, right? So home ownership is for people who go through and the pain and suffering and sacrifices to be able to save for a down payment. They're able to procure jobs and have sustainable income so that they can make their house payment. And then they make choices to change their budgets and their budgetary requirements in order to accommodate home ownership. So the truth of the matter is not every time in the history of the United States has supply and demand been the only factor when it comes to real estate market. In fact, many times in history, if you take a look, it's really about the government either creating more money, changing underwriting standards, like in the 70s, right? How income was measured and counted changed dramatically in the 70s because, believe it or not, if you're a lady and you were married and you had a job, your income might not count. Or if you're in childbearing years, crazy, right? So we look at that today and think that's nuts. So, but when that changed and all of a sudden you can count the income, all of a sudden there's this big influx of potential liquidity coming into the purchase market, drove prices up, drove homeownership up. Same thing happened in the 80s with the creation of adjustable rate mortgage and being able to get more house for less payment. We know more recently in the late 90s to 2006, the super easy qualifying for mortgages and 100%, 125% loan to value products. Again, what did that do? It just artificially drove a bunch of people into homeownership. That, of course, corrected 2008 with a crash. A lot of people lost their homes. But since that point, what's happened over the last decade? The Fed and the government has kept interest rates way artificially low as a percentage of other things and other costs in the marketplace. Here's the issue. Eventually you have to pay the piper. So governments have used real estate markets to prop up economies. But an economy is kind of what's happening across averages and means and deviations across an entire sociological standpoint, right? Here's all that matters. And it's the only thing that matters, and it's the only thing that's going to matter in the future. And that's the house payment. That's it. So if you're okay with the house payment and you're willing to make the sacrifices you need to make to keep that house payment maintained, number one. Number two, you're buying a house that you need, and you're buying a house for all the right reasons because you really need the house. If you're just focused on those two things, I don't care what world economic politics look like. I don't care what the money supply looks like. I don't care about any of that stuff. Because at the end of the day, here's what happens. The people who are willing to make these sacrifices to procure a home today almost never regret it long term, because even though their payment might be uncomfortable, well, the payment's always uncomfortable. It doesn't matter if it's 2022 or 1820, right? Everyone, house payment's too much. Yeah, I got it. So what do? You make sacrifices to accommodate that, and you move forward. And over time, guess what happens? The greatest investment you're probably going to make in your lifetime is the home that you're living in, and you start building equity. You also fixed your expenses. You're no longer having to deal with rent. Yes, it's a little uncomfortable. And as a sales professional, it's important that you don't hide behind a bunch of smoke and mirrors when you talk about, interest rates and this and that and blah, blah, blah. Just deal from the top of the deck and be honest and say, yeah, you know what? Homes are expensive. And let me tell you why. Because it's a great privilege that you've positioned yourself in a position to be able to procure the American dream And guess what? 9 out of 10 millionaires in the country are millionaires because of their real estate holdings. And now that you've taken those steps to procure a home, guess what? You're well on your way to being in that same space. Hope this was helpful. I look forward to chatting with you guys. Have a great day. Please hit that subscribe button, and don't forget, visit our website and schedule your free 30-minute evaluation.